The comms room aboard the Imperial dreadnought Sovereign Claw echoed with pride as Commander Threx delivered his report. His voice oozed arrogance, amplified by the grandeur of the moment. "We have secured the human offspring, Subject K7. She was extracted from Terra Prime without resistance. No known affiliations. She is unusually calm." Behind him, the child sat restrained in a containment field, watching the aliens with wide, unblinking eyes. Her small fists clenched in her lap, silent and unreadable. High Chancellor Varnix, lounging on his obsidian throne, waved a clawed hand dismissively. "Excellent. Let the xenogeneticists study her. The humans breed unpredictably, but a child like this could yield insights for our next hybrid programs." A lesser aide, trembling with data slates in hand, stepped forward. "High Chancellor, a preliminary scan of her genome triggered multiple warning protocols. She is enhanced. She carries seal-type markers." There was a brief silence in the chamber, broken only by the crackling hum of energy pylons. "What kind of markers?" Threx asked, suddenly more alert. The aide swallowed. "Terran Black Ops DNA. Subject's father is likely Tier 1 military. Possibly Navy SEAL lineage, augmented, post-UN genetic warfare initiative." The silence thickened. Even Varnix straightened. "Wait," Threx said slowly, almost whispering, "you're telling me we abducted a Tier 1 operator's child?" "Yes, sir," the aide replied, voice thinning to a whisper. "And the Terrans know." The snowstorm hammered against the reinforced windows of the off-grid cabin nestled deep in the Arctic exclusion zone. Commander Mason Briggs sat at a wooden table, steam rising from his untouched coffee. He had lived alone for 3 years. No war, no briefings, no orders. His hands, once lethal instruments of death, now carved driftwood into shapes of animals for no one in particular. Then the encrypted call came in. His comlink lit up with a color code he hadn't seen in a decade. Red Crimson. Tier 0. Family. He stood so fast the chair toppled. "Briggs. This is Colonel Rains. You need to sit down." "I'm standing," he replied, already strapping on the sidearm he'd sworn to bury. "You have a daughter," Rains said. "Her name is Kayla. Born on Mars 7 years ago. The mother was civilian, died 2 years back. The kid was placed in protective foster care under Terran Coalition Law 431. We kept it off your file." Briggs's voice was flat. "Where is she?" "She was taken 3 hours ago. Galactic Empire raiding party. Surgical snatch and jump from orbit. They thought she was just a random hybrid. We intercepted the Empire's internal broadcast." The colonel paused. "They just found out whose kid she is." Briggs stared out the frosted window. His own face stared back, aged and weathered, but his eyes burned with purpose. "Authorization?" he asked. "You're off book. No leash. No backup. Your name's been wiped, protocols burned. You're Wraith again." Briggs didn't say thank you. He just disconnected. In the next 5 minutes, he activated a buried weapons cache beneath the floorboard. Tactical exosuit. Electromagnetic pulse rifle. Blade drones. His personal AI, Ghost, booted up with a chilling voice. "Hello, Mason. You've been missed. Shall we retrieve your daughter?" "She's not just mine," Briggs said, voice gravel-thick with rage. "She's human. And they're going to learn what that means." Aboard the Sovereign Claw, the child sat quietly while chaos blossomed outside the chamber. Alerts flashed. Reports streamed in, communications blackouts, entire listening posts disappearing. Pirates loyal to the Empire were going dark. High Chancellor Varnix read the data, lips curled. "How is one human doing this?" Threx, grim-faced now, whispered, "He isn't human. He's Terran Tier 1. They train them to survive things we can't comprehend. He's not coming with armies. He is the war." They looked at the child. She tilted her head slowly, eyes burning with something old, something far too aware for her age. "My dad is coming," she said quietly. "You should let me go now." The Empire didn't listen. They never did. The pirate station known as Dagger's Maw wasn't on any official star maps, but Mason Briggs didn't need a map. He remembered it from the classified files he used to scan before missions, places Terran intelligence marked with terms like low-value den of scum, or non-strategic, avoid unless desperate. He was desperate. The Valkyrie dropped out of warp like a ghost. Her quantum signature scrambled to resemble galactic drift. She shimmered into being behind an asteroid cluster, unseen and silent. Briggs sat motionless in the pilot's chair, his armor matte black and expression blank. Beside him, Ghost's voice purred over the comm. 3 vessels docked, 2 of them armed, 1 hot with recent jump energy. Probability 87.6% that your daughter was held here before being transferred. Scans detect no Imperial presence now. They sold her, Briggs muttered, eyes cold. Let's find out who bought. He moved through the station like a shadow. His boots made no sound. The armor absorbed heat, blurred motion, and distorted light. He wasn't human in that moment. He was vengeance with a pulse. The first man he grabbed never saw him coming. A hulking reptilian smuggler named Kral blinked once before his neck snapped in Briggs's arms. The Terran dropped him without pause and stepped over the twitching body. Briggs found his next target in the station's bar, a slumlight dive where deals were struck over body parts and forbidden tech. He approached the bartender directly. I'm looking for a child. Hybrid. 7 years old. Human. The bartender, a twitchy insectoid with translucent wings, laughed nervously. And many humans pass through here. We don't ask. Briggs placed a data spike on the counter. A hologram flickered to life. Kayla, eyes wide in the stolen recording. The bartender's mandibles clicked shut. She was here, Briggs said. Not a question. A fact. The Empire paid us to hold her. 4 hours. Then a courier ship took her. No flag. No registry. Just coordinates. Coordinates, Briggs repeated. Now. The bartender hesitated. Briggs pulled a combat knife and stabbed it clean through the being's left wing, pinning him to the bar. The bartender shrieked. I'm not a patient man, Briggs whispered. Ghost uploaded the coordinates within seconds. Briggs didn't wait to see the bartender collapse. He was already gone. Back aboard the Valkyrie, he scanned the destination. Outer Rim Prison Moon. Black site. Code lock. High-level Imperial tech, but poorly staffed. They're hiding her. They're not trying to use her anymore. They're afraid. Briggs sat in the command chair, tightening his gloves. Good, he said. Fear's the right start. The trip took 2 jumps and a precision warp. Along the way, Ghost compiled logs from Imperial channels, social whispers, hacked transmissions. Entire recon teams were disappearing. A forward base stopped responding. Empire command was in chaos, but still too proud to admit what was coming. You're becoming a myth already, Ghost said. The demon of soul. One pirate described you as a ghost made of knives. Your kill count in the last 48 hours is higher than most special ops platoons manage in a year. Briggs didn't answer. His eyes were locked on the moon looming ahead, a black sphere laced with crimson energy grids and pulse towers. Showtime, he muttered. The Valkyrie launched its drones to jam comms. Then, cloaked and silent, the ship rotated its airlock to the far side of the prison, directly above an old maintenance tunnel Briggs identified from outdated architectural files. He slipped inside undetected. 3 guards patrolled the shaft. 3 heartbeats later, they were dead, 1 crushed, 1 suffocated, 1 split from the neck down with a monomolecular blade. Briggs moved on. The prison interior was sterile and quiet. He passed cells filled with species he didn't recognize. Eyes followed him, but no one dared speak. They saw what he was. They knew. Near the core, he found a secure vault surrounded by biometric scanners and pulse mines. Ghost bypassed the door in 10 seconds. Inside, Kayla sat on a bunk, humming softly to herself. She looked up as the door opened and her eyes widened. Daddy? Briggs's heart, deadened by 100 missions and 1,000 ghosts, cracked. He dropped to one knee and opened his arms. Kayla ran to him, burying her face in his chest. He held her tight, breathing her in like air. But then she pulled back. "They put something in me." "What do you mean?" he asked, voice suddenly sharp. She pointed to her arm, her neck, her lower back. "Little dots. I heard them say trackers. And something else. Like a switch." Briggs's rage surged again, but he held it in check. "Ghost," he said. "Already scanning. She's right. Implants, 4, maybe 5. At least one with an explosive signature. I can walk you through extraction. But it'll hurt." Kayla looked up at her father, eyes steady. "I can take it." Briggs didn't flinch. He set her on the table and began. She didn't scream once. When he finished, he wrapped her in a stealth field blanket and turned to the door. It was time to leave. Time to deliver a message. And if the Empire still hadn't learned who he was, they would now. They would all learn. End of section 2, 996 words. Mason Briggs moved through the corridors of the prison Moon with his daughter curled tightly against his chest, cloaked beneath a dispersal shroud. Alarms hadn't sounded yet, not because the Empire wasn't watching, but because they were too terrified to act. Ghost's voice hummed in his ear. "They know you're inside. Half the command staff has abandoned post. There's no coordinated response, only fear and locked doors. They're hoping you'll leave." "They're hoping wrong," Briggs whispered. Kayla clung to him, silent. Not because she was afraid, he could tell, but because she understood. Even at 7, her instincts ran sharp. She hadn't been trained, but something inside her blood knew how to move with a soldier's stillness. As they reached the outer launch bay, Ghost deployed a false emergency beacon. The Valkyrie's remote protocol initiated. 30 seconds until retrieval. Then the blast door ahead opened, and a squad of Imperial elites poured through. Not regular soldiers. These were fully augmented shock troopers, silver-armored, thought-linked, moving in perfect synchrony. The kind reserved for planetary coups, not a single man and a child. "Target is confirmed," one of them barked. "Orders are to take him alive." Briggs handed Kayla the folded cloak. "Stay down. Cover your ears." She nodded and vanished into shadow. The first trooper lunged, plasma blade roaring to life. Briggs caught his wrist mid-swing and snapped it in 2 motions. The blade fell, and Briggs buried it in the soldier's visor, burning through steel and skull. The squad advanced. Briggs moved like a storm, every strike measured, every step calculated. A low sweep shattered 2 legs. A drone-assisted leap drove his knee into another's throat. Sparks, screams, and bursts of blood filled the air. When it was over, the bay was painted in silence and gore. Kayla peeked from under the cloak, eyes wide, not with fear, but awe. "You okay?" he asked. She nodded slowly. You were like a monster." Briggs holstered his blade. "No. Monsters don't protect their own." The Valkyrie docked with a low hum. They boarded without another word. As the hatch sealed, Briggs looked back at the burning remains of the bay. "Light it up," he told Ghost. "Affirmative. Delivering message." As they shot into warp, the prison Moon's core went critical. Detonation bloomed outward, a collapsing sun of fire and vengeance. Across dozens of star systems, feeds flickered with the broadcast Ghost had pre-recorded. A simple message, raw and unfiltered, spoken in Briggs's voice. "You stole my daughter. You turned it into war. You thought humanity wouldn't come for her. You were wrong. I came alone. I bled alone. I leave with her. If you ever try again, I won't just burn your prisons. I'll bury your worlds." The transmission ended with the Empire's insignia burning away, replaced by a Terran seal emblem carved in blood red. Back on Terra, the unified command watched in tense silence. The transmission finished. No one clapped. No one cheered. It wasn't victory they felt. It was warning. The Empire, rattled and humiliated, signed a non-aggression accord within days. They called it a diplomatic correction. But everyone knew. It wasn't politics that moved them. It was Briggs. Rumors spread quickly. That the man they sent for Kayla had killed 1,000 without being hit. That he walked among stars like a shadow. That his child could stare down generals without flinching. That he promised peace, but carried annihilation in his wake. In a quiet Terran district weeks later, Mason Briggs sat on a park bench, coffee in hand. Kayla ran circles around a fountain, her laughter light, almost normal. Civilians passed without recognizing him. He preferred it that way. Ghost's voice whispered into his neural link, softer than usual. She seems happy. She is, he said. And you? Briggs took a long sip, watching Kayla chase butterflies through the garden. I'm something else, he said. But she's safe. That's enough. Across the galaxy, empires whispered and trembled. But Earth was quiet. The galaxy had learned a hard truth. You can invade worlds. You can conquer fleets. But you never, ever take a seal's child. End of section 3, 999 words. The stars above Mars glowed red and cold as the night settled over the highland colony of Ares Point. Mason Briggs stood alone atop a cliff outside the dome, visor retracted, the thin wind pulling at his coat. Below, the city lights pulsed like a distant heartbeat, too soft, too peaceful for the memories pounding inside his skull. It had been 6 months. 6 months since he tore through the Empire's chain of command like a missile in freefall. 6 months since Kayla's eyes found his through a cell door. 6 months since he made a choice that no longer belonged to any uniform, flag, or world council. And still, something twisted in his gut like an unanswered call. She was sleeping now, back at the safe house, dreaming of gardens and school friends and a future no one would dare threaten again. But Mason couldn't sleep. Not with the way Ghost kept pinging anomalies in the deep systems. Not with the way every step forward felt like the ground was cracking underneath. Ghost's voice crackled to life. I intercepted a closed-loop signal. Origin, Imperial Outpost. Encryption, obsolete intentionally. Message content, we never wanted the child. She was the key to something bigger. He opened the door. Briggs didn't speak. He simply turned and started walking, back to the rover, back to the war he thought was over. Inside the vehicle, he sat still for a long moment, processing. She's not a key, he muttered. She's a child. That may be true. But someone has made her more than that. Without her, they could not have accessed the artifact. What artifact? Ghost hesitated. Data is fragmented. But what we assumed was an abduction may have been a test. You weren't the only one they wanted to draw out. The implication struck deep. Briggs leaned forward, eyes narrowing. Bait, he whispered. He had been so focused on the threat to Kayla that he didn't stop to ask why they'd chosen her. Not just a seal's child. Something more. Something older. Genetic threads in her DNA match ancient code markers, non-human in origin. Sleeper sequences, possibly buried since before the First Terran War. The Empire didn't inject her with power. They tried to unlock it. Briggs's jaw clenched. And did they? I believe they failed. But they weren't the only ones trying. In that moment, Mason knew peace was over. Not just for him. For Kayla. For Earth. The galaxy had stirred something ancient, something bigger than war or revenge. Back at the safe house, Kayla stood in the hallway, silent. She hadn't been asleep after all. I heard, she said. Everything. He crouched down, eye level with her. You don't have to be part of this. She looked at him calmly, as if the weight of centuries was settling in her bones. But I already am. Briggs didn't argue. She wasn't a passenger in this story. She was becoming the axis. A knock came at the door. He rose instantly, weapon in hand. But when he opened it, there was no threat, only a woman in coalition armor, one eye covered by a metallic interface, her stance rigid with discipline. Major Lyra, she said, offering a coded salute. I served with you in Jakarta. Before the burn. He scanned her credentials without blinking. Why are you here? The Coalition intercepted chatter. There's an ancient structure buried on Ganymede. It only responds to a specific genetic resonance. Kayla stepped forward, hand in her father's. Lyra's eyes flicked to her. Her? Yes, Briggs said flatly. The Major nodded. You're not the only ones heading there. Briggs already knew. Ghost had mapped dozens of small ship movements all trending toward the Jovian moon. The Empire was moving again. But others, too. Rogue science sects, mercenary collectors, even rumored precursor cult. Something had changed. Something Kayla was tied to, whether she wanted it or not. He stared at the distant Martian sky for one last quiet second. You'll need a ship, Lyra said. Briggs looked at his daughter. We'll need a war. She didn't flinch. When they left Mars, it wasn't as fugitives or soldiers. They left as something stranger. Father and daughter shaped by fire, racing toward a truth no one was ready to face. And far beneath the crust of Ganymede, something vast began to wake.